Hello. Okay, I'm just trying to figure out how I want to organize this. Oh gosh. Okay, hello. It is currently 2:16 a.m. and I just got done watching a reading from Lexi the Leo. Uh, Lexi the Leo or Lexi the Lion? I think it's Lexi the Leo. Lexi the Leo on YouTube. She's a fantastic reader. She's so amazing, and she's just got the most beautiful energy. And I honestly feel like we're soul family. I feel like we're soul family. But anyways, that's besides the point. Check out her channel. But I am here because I've been on my spiritual journey as well, I was going to say as you all know, but like I'm talking to myself, I guess. So I've been on my spiritual journey and I've been kind of like hanging in the balance. I think I've maybe been in that like hanged man energy and a little bit in that hermit energy. Well, a lot of it in for the last few months, and I'm just starting to kind of get back into like the movement of things, and I am feeling like I need to just talk to the camera as I have done before. A while back, I had posted this video about, it was like called A Message from Spirit, and it was kind of me being like a little bit of a preacher and just sharing messages from Spirit that I had. And I think I might want to do things like that again. Um, it was kind of like I was providing a sermon, but I'm just going to it right now so I can see the page. Um, but I actually really enjoyed doing that. And it was something I wanted to continue, but then I kind of fell into a little bit of a rut and I was still doing a lot of healing. It's so cute. I titled my thing High Priestess, Storyteller, Lover. Cutie, cutie. Yeah, but in that message from Spirit, I've been talking about what I've been talking about for the longest time now, or it feels like the longest time, which is all about darkness and divine feminine energy and the great goddess um, and death. And so those are all things that have been kind of, I guess, pivotal in my spiritual journey so far. And yeah, but I guess I just wanted to come on here because I am trying to fully step into a confidence and a trust within myself that allows me to just kind of speak and share what I know to be true for myself and what I think is helpful for other people without needing permission and not needing to be validated by some, big overarching power that's not coming in to be like, yes, Zanala, do this. So I need to just do it myself. And so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just going to talk to you all. And yeah. So, anyways, I thought what I would do is I would start with how I experience my relationship with spirit. And yeah, recently, and maybe I'll go into in the past and things like that. So, um, this spiritual journey is not at all what I thought it would be. I mean, I didn't have any expectations. I didn't really even realize that I was on a spiritual journey, until, I mean, I guess it really kind of started in like at the end of June of last year. So June 2021. Yes. So it hasn't been that long. It really hasn't been that long, which is so ridiculous. But I've been wanting, so it kind of began with, I've always been a spiritual person. I grew up within the Christian community and I went to Catholic school. And then from there, I just kind of became non denominational because I don't really heavily associate with any religion. I don't associate with any religion. I think I have the fundamentals of the Christian faith. And so, like, I'll use terms from that faith group, but I'm not Christian, and I'm not associated with any religious group. I just identify as a spiritual. Um, but I've always felt connected to spirit, to God, to the universe, whatever you'll like to call the higher powers that be. And I've always been very interested in the esoteric. I've always loved thinking about how vast the universe is. The universe is vast is like, I guess, my favorite saying because I say it all the time and it's in my songs. But I've always really loved thinking about the world and thinking about the great beyond and the other life that's out there and what it must be like for spirit and for, these other beings. And so, yeah, I've always been invested in those types of discussions. Um, and I've always really wanted to know more about my ancestry, and I've wanted to connect with my ancestors. And so those are all things that I've been pretty interested in since I was a child. But it felt so, I never recognized them as something that, meant that I was on a spiritual path. I just kind of saw that as like my quirks. Like I just felt like that was just, that's just part of my personality. But I didn't ever register it as something that would be a part of what I would be doing in this lifetime. I've always loved writing. I've always loved storytelling. And that's been my dream for as long as I can remember. I've wanted to be a teacher before. I think I've wanted to be like a chef. I thought about being an astronaut only because I wanted to go to space. I've had like dreams before, but writing and being a writer has always been something that I've loved since I was a child. And I think it comes from that love of storytelling and that love of connecting and being able to build worlds. And I do believe in high school, I started to, say that my ancestors were the ones giving me stories. And I really loved that because it made me feel connected to them, especially to the matriarchs of my family line. And yeah, it made me feel connected to this bigger purpose, which I guess is also something I've always kind of searched for. Um, yeah, but I don't know. I guess I'm just explaining all of this because I think that spirituality and my journey to where I'm at right now it hasn't always felt like a spiritual journey, and it hasn't felt like what I imagined it would be like in terms of, feeling like overtaken by the spirit and like heavily guided and all of these things and feeling very, watched over and protected in a way that, really validates your beliefs and your experiences. I truly do believe I'm watched over and I'm protected, and I do believe that spirit and my spirit guides and my ancestors are all around me and supporting me. But I'm still, just me here in the world. And my whole life, it's just kind of been me here in the world with my sisters, my family, of course, my friends. But I've never like seen spirits. I've never heard anything. When I close my eyes, I just see the darkness. I've recently been seeing outlines of visions, and I kind of get an idea of what it is, but it doesn't happen all the time, and usually it's the same image again and again. I don't know what it means. I'm still trying to figure that out. But yeah, I've never felt, I guess in this lifetime, I've really so far had to work on self-validation and trusting in my own experiences, trusting in my ability to validate my experiences because I'm not going to have anybody come in and validate them for me. Um, and I am somebody who really likes to get confirmation. This spiritual journey so far and my like tarot cards have really taught me I really love seeking out validation and confirmation, even when it's just from myself, because, even though I'm the one shuffling the deck, and so the cards are falling out, because Spirit is talking to me, my spiritual team is talking to me, but, it's just me out here in the 3D doing all of that. I still always need confirmation, validation, confirmation, validation. And it's something that I'm really working on, and self trust is something I'm really working on. And I think it's really because I am trying to get comfortable with giving myself permission to follow my dreams and to be seen and to openly express myself and not, not dim my own light. It's hard to make the decision to be heard. Um, and it's something that, yeah, I think has been maybe my biggest journey so far, and I'm still on it. But I guess I wanted to start there because I feel like a lot of this phase of the spiritual journey, because I'm saying it now and I'm realizing that I think, we're all constantly on our own spiritual journeys, and it just looks different for everybody. Some people it feels really like a spiritual journey. For other people it's just life, you know. Like I was saying earlier, a lot of the experiences that I had when I was younger, I didn't consider them spiritual experiences. And how I was, how I behaved, and how I saw the world, I wasn't seeing it through a spiritual lens in the way that I'm talking about it now. I was just living life. And I think that is, it's actually, I think that is part of the beauty of spirituality, and what really does disconnect it from institutions and rather makes it something that is really just about being alive. It's just about being a being, regardless of if you're human, animal, creature, earth being, Pleiadian, whatever you are. Spirituality is just it's just is. It's just like it's just is. It's just what it is to be. That's just part of it. And so your journey doesn't need to look like one day you wake up and you start hearing voices and you realize that it's spirits, or you can communicate with somebody's grandma who passed away 5 years ago. Like, it just looks different for everybody, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And your journey is valid regardless. And something that I think that I've had to work on, that I think a lot of people probably are working on in this current state of the world, is giving themselves permission to really do what their heart desires rather than following what feels the most protected and the most accepted path, I guess. We are in a state in the world that is requiring people to dream. If you're not dreaming, if you're not in love with yourself, if you're not hopeful about, maybe you don't have to be hopeful about the world, but at least about your future, it's not great. It's not great, and it doesn't make things any easier. And right now, I think what we need to be doing is encouraging people more than ever to fall in love with themselves, and to fall in love with life again, and to fall in love with our earth again. Because being disconnected in that way is not going to save us. And it's not what we deserve. And something that I've been really passionate about during this phase of this journey has been talking about death and darkness a lot, because there's a real need to reclaim it. There's a real need to reclaim the shadow. Had I, not entered, because I'm realizing, because I was always wondering, I'm like, am I in, like, they say, like, there's, like, the dark night of the soul, and, like, the kundalini, I don't know, there's all these different terms, but the point is, I've been having a time, and it hasn't always been easy, and it's actually been quite difficult for a lot of it, and very lonely. But if I didn't have this experience, I would be in the same place that I was just literally less than a year ago, which was really unhappy compared to where I am now. And I think about it, and I can't really even imagine. I don't even really remember what life was like before I began this journey. I can kind of understand, but I don't really remember. And I'm somebody who it tends to be very positive and optimistic. And during this time, but that was something that I realized during this time in my life that has kind of slowly faded away, and hasn't really been the same since I was quite young. Um, and I've just kind of been like functioning and like surviving and just using all of these, using all of these, I guess, like telepathic and like psychic things that we all use as human beings, as earth beings. But I didn't have those terms, so I was just mirroring people's energy and, coping and trying to find ways to survive in this world and make sure other people are okay and just try and like function. Um, and it was a lot of performing and a lot of, um, you know, dishonesty about, not in terms of like lying to people, but just like not really being real with myself, not being real with others, not allowing people to fully see me for who I was, for who I am. Um, and it was just because I was so like guarded, and I had a lot of hurt and pain that I was still trying to understand, but I also just didn't want to deal with it because I was just like, I need to just function and get through and be okay. I don't want to be a problem. So, um, I never really took the time. I've naturally, I tend to be a very introspective person. So I'm constantly in my head analyzing my experiences and my reactions to things and how I am in certain situations. So that's something I do a lot. But I was doing it in a way that was really um, like punishing, deprecating, and kind of like bullying myself, honestly, like on a daily basis, just in my head critiquing everything I do, but not doing anything to change those behaviors, and then also not giving myself any grace. So it was like, somebody who could point out the flaws in everything, but not have a solution. Or just not be able to also understand why these things are happening and be kind. I couldn't hold that same kindness for myself. And so I was in this perpetual pattern of being in relationships and friendships where I was really unhappy and I wasn't myself and I was kind of numb and I was disassociating, disconnected all the time. I didn't even really realize the depth of it. I was depressed, I have anxiety, these are all things that I still am working through, but it's not as it's not as bad as it was. And I think about it, and on this journey, this phase of my life, I've thought, over the past like 8 months, I think it's been, let me count, it's been like July, August, September, October, November, December, February. Oh my God, yeah, 8 months. Holy shit. In Lexi's reading, she literally said 8 months. She's so talented. You should watch her channel. But anyways, Lexi the Leo. But anyways, what was I saying? Yeah, over the past 8 months, I've been like, wow, I'm like depressed a few times. But it's not like, I don't know. It's depression in a way where I think it's maybe the more just like the depression that everybody experiences being a human being, being alive, and not the mind numbing, body numbing depression that I was experiencing throughout a lot of my childhood and teenage years. That was so bad that I just didn't even really know it was happening anymore. There was like a real, even with all of my self-awareness, there was like a lack of awareness. Like I just wasn't even really present, which is why I could just kind of float throughout my life and I could be in these friendships and I would care about these people and I would develop bonds, but I wasn't really there. And so I also could easily lose those friendships and we would move around a lot as kids. So I just never really got to have a stable foundation and just kind of felt like I was floating through my life. And this journey kind of like halted me, and it was kind of coming at like rock bottom. I just had gotten out of a relationship that I didn't want to be in from the moment I got there, but I stayed because of my people pleasing tendencies, which are super self destructive and super violent against myself and ultimately hurtful towards myself and hurtful for others, because here I am creating relationships that I can't keep up and I'm not really invested in. And in that relationship, I ended up experiencing sexual violence. Um, and I was so numb to the point where I could understand that these things were happening, but I didn't understand that it was happening until I ended the relationship. And I didn't even end it because of that. I ended it because of something else. I don't even remember. I didn't want to be in it anymore. I was so tired and I wasn't happy. Um, and then it was during the several conversations I had with him after the breakup that I was starting to realize that I had also been assaulted. And it was rock bottom, because it was like, how out of it do I have to be to have continuously, existed in this relationship and, you know, not realize what was happening until it was over, and then to still give space to this person. Um, so from there, I think I really spiraled in a way that was really important for me. And I hate to say that everything happens for a reason, because I don't think that anybody deserves to be assaulted. Um, but from my own personal experience, I think I didn't need to go through assault, but to I needed a wake up call. So probably could have been something else, but that was the point that I was at, where I didn't have any boundaries. I didn't have any idea of my worth, and didn't value myself and my protection, my safety, um, my autonomy enough to not go into a relationship that I didn't want to be in. So that's what ended up happening for me. So very self-destructive habits in terms of the relationships that I chose to be in, but obviously I didn't choose to be assaulted. It's complicated. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is this part of my spiritual journey came when I was at like rock bottom. And I was also starting to disconnect from friendships and relationships around me, because I couldn't tell my friends that I had been assaulted, because I didn't feel safe enough to. I could only tell my best friend and my sisters. And that was a problem. So I started having to really analyze my friendships and question why I couldn't open up, and then why would I, stay in these situations. And everything just kind of began to unravel from there. And as I was going through it, through, I guess, the worst part, which was the beginning in terms of having to cut off relationships, and just also feeling really numb. It was the worst experience of my life, having to deal with the endings of those relationships, because, I felt so guilty, because I was waking up and realizing where I was in my life and realizing what I had gotten myself into while I was so disconnected. And it was so hurtful to know that I was doing this to other people, in terms of just being so disconnected and not present, that I had managed to create relationships and now I couldn't be in them anymore because I wasn't really in them. And I had to end that and know that I was going to be hurting people in the process. That was like the worst feeling ever. And then I also had to manage to find a way to hold space for myself, and also not completely beat myself up about it, which would be my natural reaction. I'm very self-critical, and learning to slow down on that and really analyze why I feel the need to attack myself every time I make a mistake or I have to learn a lesson, is also something I really had to confront. I think after behind ending those friendships, like stopping, finding a way to stop being mean to myself was probably the hardest part of this entire experience so far, which is so like strange um, to say, but it's true. And it's weird because I've always thought that I had a pretty healthy relationship with myself, but now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, how how did you think that? But I did. I thought I had a pretty healthy relationship with myself, but I realized that I was connecting health and, like, um, I was connecting knowing yourself and being introspective, but there was a limit to my introspection, as we can all see. I connected that with, having a healthy relationship. If you're able to critique yourself, then you have a healthy relationship with yourself. And I wasn't acknowledging the layers, but I wasn't present. So I wasn't there. And, um, you know, once I kind of began to come back to myself, which is what I'm realizing these past 8 months has been me coming back to myself. And it's been so long that it's kind of like getting to know myself again. And a lot of myself, I've really forgot that I was like this. And I forgot, or I just didn't never know, because the last time I feel like I was this close to who I really am was when I was like a kid. And it started so young for me that I feel like it was when I was really young. So I didn't really know myself. I knew myself, many different parts of myself, but it was hard to connect all the pieces because I really operated like, I feel like I kind of operated with like my mind, my body, and my soul, like all like just like all sitting next to each other. And I was just like driving this truck. My body was like driving the truck. My mind was like navigating, seeing the roads, and my soul was like sometimes popping in and getting to say her piece, but she didn't really get to talk. And my heart was there, but only open to other people and not to myself. And then I had all the different parts of me in like the back seat and in like the trunk, just like wobbling around. And sometimes I would tinker with them and be a part of that space of myself, and then other times I wouldn't. So I knew myself, but not all put together. And these past 8 months has been a journey back to myself. And it's been scary because I'm like, is this who I really am? And it's been difficult because I'm really having to undo this idea that I had that was just not true. And that was built up as defense mechanisms and stemming from childhood. And then I have to think about, you know, all of the actions that I've made based on this version of myself that was really hurting and really in need of love and really in need of um, being heard and being held. And I just think back, now I think back to me in high school and me throughout college up until now and even middle school. And I just think about how strong I was. And I always say in my videos, like, coming to earth, like, you have to be so strong. And so it's like there's nobody here that is not the bravest person in the world, and the bravest person in the universe. And I can say that for myself too. Like, I'll be damned if somebody told me that I was weak. And weakness is something that we all need sometimes. But in terms of, you know, my core, I'm strong because, we always harp on the shadow self and on, the version of ourself that's seen as lower vibrational, which I don't believe in. I've said this before too, but I don't believe in hierarchies. So I don't believe in, low vibrations being bad, what I was trying to say. And what I really think is that we need to uplift and really celebrate those versions of ourselves. Not in terms of that's who we should be embodying all the time, because balance, but there's a lot of strength that comes from you have to have living through the world in that space. It's not easy, and usually it is a reaction to trying to just like survive. A lot of us are just in, survival mode. And so when we're operating from our shadow, I just imagine that there's a lot of pressure and stress being put on that part of ourselves. And instead of being like, oh gosh, I'm sorry, how can I help you? How can I support you? Instead, we punish ourselves and worry about the karma we're going to receive from how we were operating at that point. But it's like the shadow self was just trying to get everybody by. The shadow was like pulling all of us forward throughout our lives and trying to make sure everything was okay. And maybe it wasn't doing it in the best way, but it's because there was no support for it. So of course it was making some mistakes. Like, what do you want it to do? It can't be perfect. And so you just like, there's a need to really appreciate every version of yourself. And that's also what Lexi was saying in the video. I swear she's one of my guides at this point. Offers me so much guidance. I'm so grateful for YouTube, and I'm so grateful for the tarot readers on YouTube, because they honestly have been, I commented this on Lexi's video, and I truly believe that they've been like pillars in this part of my spiritual journey. They've literally, like, I feel like they've changed my life. Literally, they've changed my life. And I owe so much gratitude and so much of my joy to like just watching their videos. Like, they really just got me through so many different parts of this journey, and we're just always such a guiding light. And tarot readers are incredible, and especially the ones on YouTube, the ones that I've really loved and supported. I've been Kino Tarot, Esso Tarot, Rosology, The Gem Goddess, Lexi the Leo, Tarot with Tay, Universal Intuition, Cognitive Universe, Nicholas Ashbaugh, Minnow Pond Tarot, Minnow Tarot Pond, something like that, Minnow Pond Tarot, Born Without Boundaries, all of them. I love the Quietest Revolution. They're also amazing. I feel like they're my family. I feel like they're my family. The Tarot Priest. I've only watched like, I think 2 of her readings so far, but I love them. So yeah, tarot readers are God's gift to earth. But what I was saying was that we need to love ourselves. We need to love our shadow. And so self-love has been pivotal in this entire experience. And I didn't ever really understand what self-love looked like. I didn't really understand what that meant until I went on this journey, because being willing to do this to yourself and for yourself, you have to love yourself. You have to. Even though it really does feel like in the middle of it, it feels like you're really like punishing yourself and you're like, why am I doing this? But once you begin it and you get into it and you start to work through things and you realize that while you've never been more, while you're lonely and while you are feeling very sad and you're working through a lot, you're purging a lot, you're really coming to your shadow and being like, let me take some of that, let me transmute it, let me work on some of this. And so your shadow's like, okay, here. And so you're like, oh God. And you're just, trying to reconnect with yourself. It's hard, but it's also the happiest I've ever been. And it's the most true to myself that I've ever been. And even just making these videos and just like talking, it's been so therapeutic, and it's just been nice to just be honest and to share what's going on. And like, I don't care. Like, I have nothing to lose at this point. I have nothing to lose. Like, there's no shame. Like, I've really gone through it to the point where I'm just open, because it's just like, this is just life. I'm just trying to work through. I'm just trying to, continue to be honest with myself and not, because I'm not going to go back to what I was like before. That would literally be the most wild self-sabotage of my life, to go back to just ignoring, this whole part of experiencing life. And really, this is why I think that spirituality is like a human right, and a right for all beings everywhere, and nowhere, is because it is really like, it's an awareness that makes everything easier. It's not easy when you're starting, and even now it's not easy, but it makes life easier. You are able to understand, and you're able to see things, and you're able to work with the world and with the universe, with your spiritual team, with yourself. You're able to begin to love yourself and see yourself and hear yourself because of these aspects that you're able to bring into your life and work with and work through. And you don't need to call it spirituality, but anything that has to do with, taking care of yourself by going through your traumas and really trying to sort them out, and creating boundaries, and following your passions and your joy, and figuring out what happened as a child that you need to heal. Like, all of those things, it's all a part of spirituality to me. So you can call it whatever you want. It could just be shadow work. It could just be self-love, confidence building, all of these things, stepping into your power, whatever it is. That's spirituality to me. You know what I mean? You don't need to be talking to God or to angels or to your ancestors or anyone. It can just be you journaling. But all of that is so important in getting through this experience as a human being and surviving. And I guess maybe that's why I started off in the beginning just talking about my experience so far, and not really realizing that it was spirituality, that my life, the way I've lived so far, has always been connected to spirituality, not realizing that and not connecting the dots, because it really was just living, but with this level of awareness that allowed me to expand the universe and expand my own understanding of myself, so that I wasn't so closed up and boxed in, and I allowed myself to imagine more. And giving yourself that room is so important, because we're such expansive beings. There's so much to us. Nobody is one-dimensional. We're so complex, and without the room to acknowledge that, you become stifled, and it can be very painful to be put into a box. It's actually like fatal to put people into boxes in that way, to the point where they really can't imagine anything else for themselves. It's cruel, and I'm just so grateful for this process. I can't even believe that this happened this past year. Like, 2021 is a year that changed my life, and I really wish I had the patience to learn astrology. I'm gonna learn it, but maybe like over time. But I just I wish I knew like immediately how to read my birth chart, so I could look and be like, was 2021 always in the charts for me, in the plans? Because it changed my life. And the point is what changed my life is hitting rock bottom and having to go through this experience that I've been going through. Because, like I said, I've always been connected to spirituality. I've always been in tune with that world. But I wasn't happy. I wasn't, floating on the clouds. I'm not even floating on the clouds right now. I mean, I'm happy, but I'm not, But I wasn't always good like I am now. Now I can say that I'm solid. Like, there's not a lot that I don't believe could break me right now at this point in my life. I have a support system. I've built up a foundation for myself, because I really had to undo everything. I had to fully, I'm so understanding now why I keep getting the death and rebirth card, because that bitch killed me. I died, and I'm back. And now I'm like in a new life, like rise again, like I'm feeling like Christ. Not in, but yeah. So the point is that there's such beauty to darkness and to death. And I guess that's why I've been talking about it so much, because I'm like, I've been in the death state. I've been there. I can tell you it's hard, but it's not bad. And honestly, I don't want to stay here because I'm ready to go back to life, but I understand why it's needed. And it's so important. And without it, you're not living life. Then you're really not experiencing it in the way that we need to be. And that's why everything, it's important to understand the nuance of everything, right? Because we've all been living life and not happy and feeling like we are being crushed and feeling like we are dying. And then we've all been at rock bottom and feel like we've died and we are like grieving ourselves and going through this death state and this transformation. And we've all experienced that. And we've understood the good of death and the bad of death. And we can understand the complexity and why it's still needed, so needed, because we've all seen what transformations happen after somebody hits rock bottom. We've seen how it's gone not so great, and we've seen how it's changed somebody's life for the better. It's changed my life for the better once I hit rock bottom. And even saying that I hit rock bottom feels so dramatic, but I tend to simplify my experiences. It's something I'm also working on. But I hit rock bottom. I full on died. I was out of it. I was so disconnected, disassociating, like to the point where I was like, people disassociate? Because I didn't even understand that. Like, I knew that people disassociated, but I didn't think I was. That's how I was gone. I wasn't here. I was not here. I think about who I was, and I was here, obviously. I was creating friendships, and I loved those people. Still love them. And I was having experiences, and I experienced joy. I created art. I was here, but I wasn't really here. You know, there was fundamental parts of me that were gone, and that they had been gone for so long that I had learned to function without them. And coming back into them has been this experience, which has been so ridiculous. And I had to undo a lot and take a lot out in order to make room for them. And that's what this whole process has been about. In like the death state, I've been rebuilding. And that's why it's such a beautiful experience, and something we should be really grateful for getting to experience. Darkness is something we should be really grateful for getting to experience, because it is the rebuilding. And as hard as it is, like, I can't imagine life. I don't want to imagine what it would be like if I didn't end up going through this experience. I don't want to ever go back to where I was before, without the connections that I have now to the spirit world, and at least as openly as I'm acknowledging them and I see them. I don't want to go back. I don't ever want to go back. And I want it to be clear that, you know, spirituality and darkness and death does not have to be something it's intimidating. It is, and it's scary. So all of that can exist, but you don't need to. When you're ready for this journey, you can go into it. You don't need to be called. This is something that we all have a fundamental right to. Like I said, I believe that spirituality is just like breathing air, or just like, it's not even really like it just is life. It's just like, same way we experience life and death, we experience spirituality. It just is. And we all experience it differently, because we're all experiencing life differently, and we all experience death differently. It is your own perception. But it just is. It's one of those things. It's not an institution. It can't be ruled by anybody. There's nobody that, you know, is the decider of how things go, blah, blah, blah. There are some people who are more in tune with their version of spirituality, and so they can connect more with yours and help you create, you know, bridges and blah, 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 blah. But ultimately, you don't need anybody's permission to go into this experience. And I really encourage you to go into this experience, because as difficult and terrifying and hard as it's going to be, it's also going to be beautiful, and it's going to bring out something in you that you didn't know that you were missing. It's like falling in love with yourself. And so I'm telling you, like, it's like this deeper understanding of self-love that I didn't even, like, I didn't understand what self-love was like. I didn't. I'm still, right now, so I can say that I love myself now. Now I'm starting to work on self-care. Don't really know what that's like. I'm trying. Slowly but surely. We'll get there. I'm going to get myself a massage one day when I have money. And you get tested, because when I tell you, I've had $200 to my name since like January, and now I don't even have $200. And now I am actually in debt. So I have like nothing to my name in terms of like tangible financial wealth, but I am going to get my tax refund. So I'll pay off my debts, and then I'll have like $100 to my name. So excited about that. But you get tested, but I'm still here. I'm fine. I'm doing okay. I'm doing more than okay. And I understand that I have a very privileged experience. I have a home, I have a family that can let me live with them, and I have food and access to things, so, but I was just saying that as an example. But anyways, the point is, you do not need to be invited into this spiritual journey. And because I do read tarot, I do read the tarot, and the collective is all pretty much going through the same thing, which is really nice, because then you really see how connected we are on Earth. We are all so heavily connected. Don't let anybody make you feel like you are not a part of what's going on. You absolutely are. We're all dealing with very similar energies, and a lot of people are waking up, whatever that means to you. It can just be realizing that you were traumatized in this way, and this is something you need to work on. It can be going on a full spiritual journey and realizing you want to do this, and that is stereotypically connected with spirituality. It could be realizing that you want to follow your childhood dreams of wanting to be a scientist. It could be whatever. It's about reconnecting with your soul, and you can call that reconnecting with your heart. You can call that reconnecting with your childhood, reconnecting with that person. It's whatever it is that brings you to that same gut feeling of true love for yourself and love for life, which ultimately leads you to love others and take care of others and appreciate others, because you're taking care of yourself and you appreciate yourself. You love yourself. And you don't need to ever, talk to spirit guides, talk to the universe. You don't ever need to do that. You do need to appreciate our Earth, though, because Mother Earth deserves to be appreciated. But, it's just about following your dreams. That is spirituality. Following your joy, that's your spirituality. Falling in love, that's spirituality. It's all of those things. It's just life. But we've had life taken away from us. And it is nobody's fault. That we are, all struggling and trying to figure out what the hell is going on. A lot of us are traumatized. And what would be really helpful right now is if we gave each other the space to try and figure out how we can heal. That's what's most important right now. And holding space for each other and being kind and loving to each other, and understanding that a lot of us are going through a lot of shit. And so, let's just ease up. I really wish we could all just stop working for a good 3 years. People need a break, but I realize that that's not realistic. So in the meantime, I'm going to share my videos and try and connect with people that way, and in other ways that come to me over time. And I will soon find a way to build the healing sanctuaries where you can come and heal all the time, because healing is a constant process, and it's not something that needs to be reserved for every few years, or your therapy sessions. And everybody deserves access to a great therapist, including the therapist. But life's difficult, so I just want to at least offer this. I don't know. I hope it was helpful. I hope that it got something, you connected in some way. I'm starting to get a little delirious because it is 3 a.m. So I realize that I'm not saying much anymore. But the whole point was that spirituality is something that needs to be, it's accessible to you because you're alive and you're a soul and you have a spirit. And it is something that comes natural to you, just as breathing does. And it is whatever you define it as. But you should lean on it and you should dig into it because it's going to help you get through these next few decades. It's going to help you get through this next phase of the world because, as I've also said in previous videos, our planet Earth, our Mother Earth, Mother Gaia, however you refer to her. For me, I also do like to call her Izzy Benny. But our Earth is going through her own death state. I think that, I don't even know if we're on the cusp anymore. I don't know if we might just already be in it. Are we already in it, Spirit? And as above, so below. So what we're experiencing here, the universe is experiencing at large. So you can imagine, it's a lot, but that's exactly why it's important to right now to connect to your heart space, to connect to your joy, to connect to your soul fulfillment, which means going through the shadow, coming back to your shadow, taking some of the shit off of their back so they can breathe. Because we need shadows, first of all. Shadows add depth. Shadows add character. Shadows are our history. We need our shadow. So it's not about getting rid of your shadow. It's about making sure that they don't have to carry everything. Shadows are naturally dark. They're naturally shaded. That's just their natural hue, just like black folks. We're naturally, well, some black people aren't dark, but just like certain people in the world are naturally dark. Shadows are dark. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just their inherent, that's just their look. But they don't need to carry all your baggage. Like, that's not a thing that it's not now like, oh, because you're dark and you may be heavier, now here, carry all my shit, because that's just like what you do. No, what the fuck? Absolutely not. You can take some of that and you can transmute it. You can work through it. You can talk about how you're feeling and dig a path back to where that comes from and start to address those things and confront the fears, confront the things that are coming up for you and work through it. Because ultimately, when you're helping your shadow, you're helping yourself. These are all parts of ourselves, but they're also elements of the universe. And help a bitch, save a bitch. That's how it feels. Yeah. So the Hermit. Maybe a lot of us are going to be in that phase for a minute. And girl, it's okay. I'm telling you, you might really appreciate it. You might really appreciate it. And and it doesn't mean that you're going to stop moving. I mean, just because you're in the Hermit phase doesn't mean that everything stands still. Something I really appreciate about my own experience, like with meditation and things like that, is that I'm not really a person who likes stillness a lot. I have been having to do it more often, but I don't really like to stay still all the time. I'm a very moving person. I like to do things with my hands, and I just like to get my energy going because I have a lot just like all inside of me. So it's important for me to get that out. And so I like to dance to get that energy out, or sing, or just talk really loudly, or lean really close to the camera, or shuffle my deck, or things like that. And so even while I was in my Hermit phase, I was still doing things. Like I was, I don't know if I'm out of it yet. I really don't know. We never know. But even while I was in like the beginnings of my Hermit phase, I wasn't just still. I was going outside and going on walks a lot. Spent a lot of time in the park. I was creating music. I was trying to write. It was okay. I was expressing myself, making a lot of voice notes, doing things, still being alive. And like I was saying in another video, in the death state, you're not just still, you're alive. You're still moving. You're still doing things. It's just different. It's just with a different energy. You're doing that, and you're also working through some shit. It feels different. Sometimes it doesn't feel great. Life doesn't always feel great. But now that I have really gone through the brunt of this death state, and I'm learning to appreciate it and fully understand it and embody it, and work all of that energy back into me in a way that is helpful. Now I am able to move into life with an energy that is very different, and is much more filled with gratitude and appreciation. And yeah. And that's also what's so special about being on Earth, is that you really do be dying and coming back to life. Like, we experience the big death at the end of our lives, but people be dying and coming back a lot. That's just a part of being on Earth. You understand death very intimately, and we need to stop like cowering away from talking about it and acting like death is a bad word and darkness is a bad word and heaviness is a bad word. All of that is just, it just exists and it's necessary. And being light and lightness and life is not all that there is, and it shouldn't be all that there is. It shouldn't be. And when we understand death and appreciate darkness and death, then we can understand and appreciate life. It all goes together. It is what I was talking about with winter and all that. Yeah. Connecting with the higher sources can mean whatever they mean to you. But the point is you want to connect with yourself. And really, when you're saying higher, you're really going deeper. Like for me, if it's uncomfortable because I do not like hierarchies, and I just have a sensitivity about them right now in this phase of my life, and maybe forever, I don't know. Because I don't like hierarchies, I can also imagine connecting with your higher self or a higher power as just connecting with your heart, or just connecting with your soul, which is connecting deep within. So really reaching out darker, reaching in deeper, going darker in depth into the depths of your soul. It's all the same. It's all the same. It's all connected. And then we have justice. The real justice is allowing yourself to be so complex that it can be everything all at once. That it can be this, it can be that, and then it can also be that and this, and then it can all be one. Because that's really what it is at the end of the day. It's all the same. It's all one. It's all the same thing. Yeah. And if you want to connect that to spirit and to God and the universe and all of these bigger concepts, then you can. And if you don't, then you don't have to. Either way, you're still doing your shit. But the point is that you need to make room for yourself, and you need to love yourself. And you need to hold space and be open to just how dynamic you can be, how complex you are, how big of your dreams you are, how big you are, and what you need in this life, okay? Because stifling ourselves and our needs is not helpful. It's actually violent against ourselves, and it leads to hurting ourselves and other people. And that's the last thing we need right now on Earth. We do not need any more hurting other people. We are hurt enough. We hurt ourselves enough. Like, let's just, balance it out. But yeah, overall, I'm very optimistic and I'm very hopeful about the state of the world, because I can see and I can feel, just as I'm sure many people can, that we're in the death state. We're doing the shadow work. A lot's coming up. A lot's being worked through. But it's all necessary. Earth has had a wild history. Human beings who tend to be the more dominant and quote unquote powerful energies right now on Earth have a lot of history, a lot of trauma, and so there's a lot to work through. The shadows are tired. You can bet that Earth's shadow is tired. You can bet that the human shadow is tired. And all of our ancestors are here, and they're trying to help us too, because they're trying to get free. Like, everybody's tired. Everybody wants a break. Everyone wants to go to sleep. Everyone wants to rest. We're all really craving this death. Actually, we all really need it, which is why we're here, because we were manifesting it. We were like, bitch, let's go, because I'm ready to get rid of this. And I'm like in full support of it. Full support. Yes. At this point, I need to go, because I really am tired. And I also just want to dance. It's 3:15 now, so I can have a little bit of time. But yeah, don't be afraid to look in the mirror and look at yourself and ask yourself what you need. Ask yourself what's being held up, what needs to be revealed, what needs to be worked through, what needs to change, what needs to grow, what needs to adapt, what truths need to be revealed, heard, spoken out loud. Do what you got to do. Don't worry about anything else. It's important to consider other people's feelings and emotions, but people are going to be hurt during the process of healing, and during the shadow work process. It's almost, people do get hurt, and so that is something that you want to be aware of, but also don't let that stop you from setting boundaries where you need to set boundaries. I think a lot of us are people pleasers. I am myself. And so, you think about that a lot in terms of what you're willing to do for yourself. But ultimately, when you don't choose yourself and you don't choose to take care of yourself, you're going to hurt those people even more. So, it's the long game or the short game, Don't do anything and allow it to go on, and don't hurt them immediately, but hurt them in the long run. Or do something and hurt them immediately and maybe for a little bit after that, but ultimately make everything better. It's the hard part about being alive. It's just like being an adult. It's just like, shit's rough. But I also don't want to go back to being a kid, because you didn't have much control over your life. And you had all these questions and no answers, and nobody wanted to tell you because everybody was tired. Nobody had the time to talk to the kid. Kids also deserve a lot more. We can learn a lot from children, as we all know, but they also deserve a lot more respect. Anyways, the point is that I am ready to go. So I'm going to end this video, but I'm really glad I got to record this, and I was just chatting away. I don't even know what I'm going to title this, because I was really just talking, but I'm going to share it. So I will see you in the next video, and, yeah. Okay. Adios. Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Sometimes, in terms of seeing spirit, sometimes I do just, see, wind. Or just, it looks like a feather, but then I'm like, it's not a feather. Or, light. Air just moving. That's how I see spirit. If anything. Or, I just see, flashes of light. Or, really, really quick wind. You know what I mean? That's the only way. Other than that, I don't see anything else. So, yeah, your spiritual journey doesn't need to look like anybody else's in order for it to be valid. And you don't need to call it a spiritual journey if you're not comfortable with that. Words are just words. It's just how we express and connect. But, ultimately, it's about how you feel. And as human beings, we're very highly, highly, highly telepathic, highly empathic, highly intuitive. You just have to be. You're so in other people's space and other energies. Everything has energy and everything has a soul. So you're constantly interacting with other souls and other spirits and other energies. Everything. It's just a lot on you. So give yourself that space. Allow yourself to feel openly and work through that. Because keeping it all in is hurting yourself. You don't need to hurt yourself. You don't deserve to be punished. So allow yourself to breathe. But yes, thank you so much for letting me talk for an hour. And I am going to go now. Goodbye.